searching for your last name. But anyway, um, anyone can say it. Who can unmute?
Myers Brown.
Thank you, Precious Myers Brown, who have been the co-chairs for our Tech First work group with our person-centered organization efforts here at the Department on Disability Services for quite some years now. First up, I want to make two announcements, and then I'm going to pass it on to Donald so that he and Precious can provide a lot of helpful information about Tech First, about technology, and how these supports can help people supported by DDA. First of all, and very importantly, the performance oversight hearing schedule was released this week. The performance oversight hearing for DDS will happen on February 26th at 9:30 a.m. That's going to be the Office of Disability Rights and the Department on Disability Services, and it's in room 123 at the Wilson Building. You can also view it remotely and I will put this in the chat, www.janiceward4.com/live. I will put that in the chat once I'm done. I also want to make a brief announcement. As people are aware, based on the final budget that was passed, DDS, unfortunately, was in a position that for the first time ever, we have to implement a waiting list for services in our comprehensive IDD waiver. We have received support through the American Rescue Plan Act. We're actually funding some pilot projects for remote supports through that. We got all that money pushed out the door during the month of January. January 31st, we had got an extension until January 31st for Department of Healthcare Finance to do some budget reconciliation about all the funds that were spent. The guidance that we had received previously from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services was that as soon as all the funds are out the door, after that point, the maintenance of effort, the limitations on any changes to waivers, any reductions or terminations in waiver services is removed. However, what we were informed in the past week was that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has to review that final reconciliation that was done before they consider the ARPA period closed. And therefore, the waiting list cannot go into effect until that has occurred. We don't know at this time how long that will take, but the plan for implementation at the beginning of February has to be delayed until CMS has completed that. That does create for DDS some spending pressure that we will be monitoring closely. And we will keep people informed as soon as we have more specific information about the progress of CMS in finalizing the district's ARPA initiatives. So I'm sorry, I don't have anything more specific than that, except the news that February 1st is not at this time the implementation date. And as soon as we do have a specific implementation date, we will send that information out for people, and we'll announce it in this meeting as well. So with that said, I will pass it over to Donald and Precious. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Happy Friday, everyone. Hope we're all preparing for the snow. Just waiting for the slide to come up in a moment so we can get started. All right. So as Director Reese stated, we're here today along with Vista Supports, Precious Myers Brown, Carl Hernandez, to just come back and talk about remote supports. This has been a part of the Tech First initiative that we've been pushing forward for some years now and slowly making a foundational progress within the service delivery system to make this type of service delivery available to service beneficiaries. Next slide, please. So just to recap, as Director Reese stated or mentioned, tech first. I always like to start here and kind of give a refresher on what tech first is. I know many people have heard that from me, but for folks who may have not heard that, and this is the first time, what tech first is DDS's commitment to considering technology first, air quotes, as a natural support option. In addition to the traditional ways we talk about services and supports when we talk about support planning. And what that really means in plain language is that we want to get better as a service delivery system, almost like muscle memory when we're sitting down at the table talking about people's goals, desired outcomes. What role can technology play in that? Whether it's equipping people with the tech tools to enable them to thrive in daily life, or also exploring remote supports. Just to state, DC is not the only state that has committed to this approach. This isn't just a handful of states. This is actually now a national movement where developmental disability state agencies are committing to taking this approach in supporting people, roughly 40 state agencies. And even on a higher level, this is actually supported by national associations such as NASDS, the National Association for State Directors of Developmental Disability Services, and Advancing States, whom have created an Enabling Technology Engagement Network. This brings together those 40 states as well as engaging tech innovators and speaking to CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, to address challenges and accelerate innovation with the goal to ensure that tech people have access to technology to thrive. Next slide. So just another part of this, I think, to state is that I truly believe that tech first is the next milestone in the evolution of DDS's support model. We've come a long ways from Forest Haven to transitioning people into group homes and then really focusing on person-centered and community-based services. And I really believe that Tech First is the next milestone in the evolution of how we support people, shifting from care to support to tech-enabled empowerment for those we support. Next slide. So now we got that out the way. We're here to talk about remote supports, which is an element of Tech First and that approach, innovative approach of how we support people. If you missed the video at the beginning, just to recap, remote supports is a way for a direct support professional to support someone virtually, to communicate, prompt, coach, and provide oversight, to understand when supports may be needed. This is a new approach where we're taking that person who used to be there and physically, and now they're virtually available and they're leveraging technology not only to communicate with people if and when it's needed, but they're also leveraging technologies to feed into their hub to understand certain information, to alert them in a timely fashion. And with today's technology is almost shifting us from being a reactive service delivery system to proactive. No longer are we responding to crisis if we can really implement this. We're able to track and trend and understand when there may be concerns and intervene when it's appropriate. And needless to say, remote supports really creates an environment. And don't think of remote support solely as an environment for the home. Think of what remote supports means for work or community. But it really creates an environment to allow people to do for themselves first and foremost, and then receive a connection to staff if and when it's needed. And I think that's the key point. We're creating an environment where people can thrive first or try first safely and promote their independence and have that kind of lifeline to support staff if and when they need it virtually. Next slide. So this is my myth buster slide, my favorite part. And really to start off, I like to say that remote supports It's empowering independence. It's not the eliminating staff contact. Remote supports isn't the absence of a support professional. It actually provides two layers of support. One from the remote support professional, in some states they call it remote DSP, who's there to provide that prompting, coaching, and also oversight of alerts and things of that nature from afar. But not only that, a second support professional, and that is who the remote support professional can alert if there does need to be some in-person supports. A backup responder, a backup staff can be alerted to go to the home to provide supports if it's determined it's needed in person. Remote supports is responsive in nature, and it is not continuous visual monitoring and surveillance through cameras. That is the very last resort. A lot of remote support professionals and service providers who are delivering this level of support are leveraging less intrusive technologies, such as sensor-based technology, to understand if there are patterns that may need a check-in or a video chat with someone, or even to dispatch a in-person staff. Remote supports is not only home supports. Again, as I previously stated, there are many use cases for remote supports, whether that's remote job coaching. Instead of someone physically being there in someone's workspace, that's unnatural for you and I. And it creates a natural working environment and a lifeline to staff when they need it. Also consider what remote supports could do for travel training or even grocery shopping. So many use cases this could be applied to. And one of the biggest myths, remote supports is not only for people who may appear to be more independent than others. I urge everyone to check out the Tech First Toolkit that really talks about the lawn and what role it should and should not play to explore if remote supports is a good fit. Just looking at a lawn score or just looking at a person is not the end all be all. The lawn is insightful because it provides information about the existing support needs and also potential risk areas. But that's just where the work starts. It's really for providers to map those risk areas and support needs to what are the potential tech solutions we can implement. And not only that, what are the remote support strategies that we can do to address them as well? So I urge everyone to please check out the toolkit on those best practices when you're assessing someone. Next slide. So just a quick recap on some of the foundational work recently by DDS to really build this environment where, remote supports can be accessed, where there are standards in place to follow, and so much more. There have been some things that we put in place. Number one, we released the remote supports policy and procedure, October 2025. We also released the Tech First Toolkit in the same month. And then we're anticipating the waiver amendment going into effect. We thought it was January 1st, still a little back and forth with CMS, but there are some substantial changes that we hope improves the system, makes this accessible, gives instructions and guidance to all key players, from people supported to service providers to service coordinators about this service, in addition to assistive technology services. And then the shout out service coordination, who's really intentionally looking at all this information and figuring out how to train service coordinators and align themselves with all these moving parts. So we're speaking the same language and they can be a resource to people supported and support planning teams. Next slide. So I won't go over everything, but again, these are those 4 items that I stated are kind of the groundwork we've done or that's in progress to really support this. Remote supports policy and procedure. One thing I will point out that I think is substantial to Tech First is that the procedure really makes it standardized that a discussion is held on an annual basis at a minimum to explore what role tech can play and/or remote supports when supporting people. That's just what Tech First is, the muscle memory in the service delivery system where we are routinely trying to look at tech and/or remote supports. Also, we we identified, I'm sorry, what services, remote services will require assessment and tech plan, and also what the clear planning and documentation expectations are. Just to state as well, this is an ever evolving process as we tune the service delivery system. And one of the ways I see that is that we simplified what are the credentials required for providers to deliver remote supports. No longer is it being employed by a provider who is also accredited, but whomever that program lead is for remote supports within that organization simply needs to hold a cert under cert shift. Bottom line, I always like to, as much as we talking about service providers and the process here, what does this really mean for people supported? I believe that this will ensure that if this is explored on a regular basis as far as what tech tools you may be able to utilize in daily living, as well as if remote supports is the option for you to give you more autonomy and independence. And it provides clear steps and roles. The Tech First Toolkit encompasses a lot of the things in the remote support policy and procedure, but gives a lot more of how-to information, such as what makes a good assessment, what you should be looking at. As I previously said with the lawn, how that lawn should and should not be applied to the process as well. Next slide. Waiver amendment. We did a lot of work there. As I stated, we anticipated it going into effect January 1. However, that has been delayed, but we hope that it will be in place by February at the minimum. But we've reclassified what is considered remote supports and what is considered telehealth moving forward. There was a long list of services we simply said could be delivered remotely, but we wanted to reclassify, in particular, the therapeutic and clinical services under telehealth, being that, there are some requirements with the existing services under remote supports that should only apply to those and not the telehealth services, such as the shift cert. Also, we really try to modernize what type of tech can be covered under AT. What could be considered AT? That's really categorizing it in a way, generally, so that as soon as the ink dries, we don't put our backs against the wall where emerging tech comes out and we can't consider that or entertain that as assistive technology or enabling technologies. So we broaden general terms, categories. So if an emerging tech solution comes out, it can potentially qualify under one of those general categories, and also creating the flexibility to consider other tech solutions on a case-by-case basis. Um, so again, I just want to get to Precious and Vista supports because next slide, please. But before I do that, before I turn it over to you guys, yes, that one. I do want to ask a question, and that is, would we still consider remote supports if it wasn't for kind of the system challenges we're facing now? If the answer is no, then we're not being person-centered, we're being system-centered. Support should be pursued because it fits the person's outcomes and it supports their goal to lead self-determined lives first. It being a solution to system challenges should be secondary, and I truly believe it can address some of the pressures on our service delivery system, from the staffing crisis shortage to, cost efficiencies and things of that nature. But it's important as a culture in the service delivery system that we treat remote supports not as a emergency backup plan for this system, and we start treating it as what it is. It can be first, a national support option for people to lead self-determined lives. A true tech first mind state means we lead with the least restrictive, most independence building option because it's right for the person. When we do that, remote support becomes a thoughtful, voluntary tool that advances people's efforts to lead self-determined lives. And only then does the system benefit and show up as a bonus for that reason. So just really, I think we should have been moving in this direction. This is a new way to support people, in addition to some of the challenges we're facing. Next slide. So we have with us Vista Supports today, Precious Miles Brown, Carl Hernandez. This has been one of the leaders in innovation in the IDD space and aging, quite honestly. And they've been doing this for a while in many states, Tennessee, which is another Tech First forefather, DD state agency who's been doing this prior to DC. And they're here to not only give insights on remote supports, but the experience. What has been the benefits for people supported, receiving remote supports? What does it look like behind the curtain for service providers to efficiently provide this new way of supporting people, and how it can be an efficient service? So I welcome you both. Turn it over to you, Precious and Carl.
We're unmuted?
Yeah, we're muted.
Hey guys, thank you so much, DDS. Andy, don't worry about the last name. I still got mad love for you. Don't you worry about that. I just want to thank you for welcoming us here again. For us, enabling technology is one of our favorite things to talk about all of the time because it's another way for us to elevate our advocacy. So a lot of times when we are talking about enabling technology ecosystems, assistive technology, remote supports, what I'm really saying is community inclusion. That's it. In and of itself, in a nutshell, what I'm really saying is community inclusion. So when we talk about our advocacy in the field of IDD services, we have been doing since the beginning of time community inclusion. Simple as it sounds and as difficult as it sounds, that's all we've been doing. So when we talk about enabling technology and remote supports, we're redefining what we say community inclusion is. Just like this meeting right now, we are having this meeting in the digital community. All of us received an invitation to come into this community. We used our keys for this community inclusion, which is our email, and we all joined in, and now we're having a meeting. No matter where you are in this community. So when we talk about putting people in situations where they have access to the digital community and digital space, remote supports is one option that allows them to engage in the digital community. So we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to get to the foundation. We got some stories to tell. I love stories. I know I don't have time to talk about all the stories. We're going to talk about how the technology works. We're going to hear from a remote DSP, a remote direct support professional, and from their aspect. And we're going to talk about how important and the impact this has on somebody who is currently being supported in the District of Columbia. Now, we're going to talk about all these things in a short period of time. And if I'm talk too fast, or if we get out of time, we'll have time for you can either email us or we can maybe do a repeat or do the next level of this series that we're creating. Okay, good. Let's go, Carlito. So let's talking about the foundation. So a lot of times, you heard Donald already say, a lot of times people say, oh, remote support, that's no staff. People can't live without no staff. Nobody said that. That's number one. Somehow our fears get the best of us and we wind up going to the full extreme. And we don't do anything until we've done our planning. So when we start talking about remote supports, that is a framework in which to provide a service. So the service could be supportive living. The service could be telehealth. That's another form of providing a doctor's appointment. We could be talking about employment on all levels, from assessment to discovery, from coaching to follow along. All of these different services are still services that can be provided within the framework of remote supports. So it's the way we approach the same services and supports we've been providing. So we look at the person in a very person-centered, individualized way. We listen for needs, wants, desires, outcomes, things that the family, we look at the entire environment. We look at their physical environment. We look at how they live in and outside their home. And then what we do is match, where appropriate, match the technology to the person's needs, wants, desires, wishes, outcomes. We put that all together and make it communicate. This is the important part, because a lot of times people think, well, some of us, we do remote supports. I'm doing remote supports on my husband right now. I know exactly where he is, right, Carl?
Yep.
I know exactly where he is, and I know what his heart rate is. That's not the same thing. That's me being a stalker. But when we talk about taking the technology and ensures that it's communicating, I am taking the ISP and I am digitizing it in such a way that technology starts to communicate the way we communicate previously in an ISP. And that technology is creating an enabling technology environment when everything is talking to one another. That's what we are doing. Then we look at what other supports come into play. We look at their human supports, where a human would be needed. As much as we might think we are at the Jetsons, we're not completely there. You can't just yet go into a room and you're all showered and changed. So someone might need to be assisted to get showered and changed. That is where I would place human support. Then we have natural supports, and we have community members. We have bosses and supervisors at people's jobs. We pull that all in together, and even the home itself becomes an enabling piece of an environment. We put it all together and we create what I call the enabling technology ecosystem. This is what creates an enabled life, by utilizing technology to support and be a part of the ecosystem you just created. So when you look at it from that sense, no one is alone. No one. There have been positions created for everybody and everything within that ecosystem. Then we take that and we put it in a universal, as much as possible, a universal environment where that can then be seen, witnessed, observed, and have a two-way form of communication. So that two-way form of communication could include some two-way audio, video, but also could be a single source platform by which all of the technology is communicating, so that the remote person can pay attention and respond to the technology, as well as help and assist with goal implementation. It sounds crazy, but it's really fantastic. So when you look at it from that sense, you can see that no one has been left unattended. So the remote support person is engaging with many different areas. They're engaging with the environment, they're engaging with the technology, they're engaging with the person supported, and they're engaging with other human people that are floating around or there to provide physical or in-person services. So they are doing all of this together within that ecosystem that's been created. Now, within that ecosystem, we've also created backup. We've created backup batteries, backup plans for when it all goes awry, or maybe it doesn't. And I want to tell you something, this is the truth. It's very, very rare that I've ever had, since 2006, that I've had to implement backup. The backup system, maybe in power outages or maybe in things like that, but it's very rare that we've had to implement any backup since 2006. I just want you to remember that figure. Hold me accountable to it too. Then we look at why remote supports is important. One, privacy. Some people say, oh, now that they don't, man, you're putting more on the person by putting technology into place. Guess what's the most the most invasive and restrictive form of service delivery. Could be, depends on perspective. Me in your face, me in your bathroom, me in your house, me sitting on your couch, me in every aspect of your life, me jumping in to be care provider, when clearly if maybe I have a piece of technology that can be utilized to help me be in control of that environment, control of my home, control of my appointments, control of who I want to call on the phone, control of all of that, that then backs me up further, which is the goal of habilitative services, is for us to back up as much as possible and let the person be in the forefront of their life. This is one way, not the only way, but one way that that can occur. Then we also have clear response protocols built into plans. And I want to lay this all out because I want to get to the fun stuff, but I know I have my quality assurance persons out there. I got my people that need to fill in boxes and check off things. And I want you to hear this, that inside your plan, you will have response protocols, when you might need to respond, how do you need to respond, who needs to respond, how often you need to respond, and also when there are emergencies, when then you decide to deploy the backup system, because not every situation requires you to immediately react when there's an emergency. A lot of people can do a lot of things on their own, even in an emergency. Next. Now we're going to get into, and I'm going to be talking a lot through this, but I want to introduce you to a real life situation that is evolving right here in the District of Columbia. I'm going to introduce you to a woman by the name of Kiara and her mom, Wendy. But I'm going to tell you the backstory to this. So when Vista Supports was engaged by an early adopter agency, Health and Joy Services, to look at how technology might help with a situation with someone receiving in-home supports, how technology might be a way to assist this person and mom to be more, to feel more peace of mind, to gain more valuable information on health, to be able to know when it's time to jump in and when it's not time to jump in, and to provide some level of quality outcomes to a person being supported in-home supports in the District of Columbia. Now, one might say, like Donna already busted that myth, one might say that only certain people can receive assistive technology remote support. That's not true. And I think Kiara and her mom, Wendy, bust that myth way out the door. So what we're going to do is listen to her. We have a video of her that she just recorded yesterday. She was supposed to be here live, and maybe next time she'll come live. She has an appointment. So let's go ahead and hear this, and let's make sure that everybody can hear it.
Hi, Kiara. Hi. Thanks for taking the time to shoot this short interview to talk about some of your cool assistive and enabling technologies you're using. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to ask you a few questions, all right? Okay. The first question I want to ask you is about your Xandar device. Yep, you look right at it. Okay. So, how does the Xandar make you feel? Happy. Happy? And why does it make you feel happy? I can see it. Because people can see how you're doing? Yeah. And it makes you feel safe? Yeah. Okay. The Xandar shows your heart rate to your mother and your remote team. So I know that makes you feel comfortable when you're laying in your bed, right? Yeah. Okay. And what about your tablet over there? It's okay. It's okay? What's some things you like to do with it? You like to what with it? Listen to my music. Listen to your music? Okay. And what about doing video calls with your remote staff? Yeah. Yeah? You like talking to them? Yeah. Okay. And what about watching movies on it too? I watch it And TV. Okay, so use that and your TV. And you control the TV with your voice? Yeah. And how do you do that? With the Alexa device? Yeah. Okay. It makes giving you control of your environment a lot easier, right? Yeah. So, okay. Can you say Alexa? Good job. Good job. And you know you can also control your TV from the tablet too, right? Yeah. No, I don't know how to turn on. You know how to turn it on? Oh, that's good. I'm glad you can do it independently without needing a whole bunch of uh, people in your space all the time, right? Yeah. All right. So just one more thing about your Xandar, it makes you feel safe and you like it, right? Yeah. All right. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me in this short little interview. Yeah. All right. And one more question actually before I go. So if you can use technology, anyone can use it, right? Mm-hmm. There's no barriers, and this gives you your independence. And you like your independence, right? Yeah. Yeah. We all like our independence. Thank you. Say bye. Bye.
And Wendy, this is her mom, Wendy. And so it's good to hear from a parent's perspective about how the technology gives her peace of mind, but also how she is able to utilize it to help advocate for her daughter.
Hi, I'm Wendy Waxler. I'm Kiera Waxler's mother. And I actually am relieved to have the Xandar here for her because one, she's on a different floor than I am, and it makes me more confident that that it's in here, and I can look on my computer upstairs and see how she's doing while she's sleeping, or while she's just laying in the bed and resting. And it also helps to monitor to make sure she's not having a seizure. And I don't think anybody understands that it helps with that as well, based on her heart rate. It's so many things that helps with, and then I can give accurate readings to her doctor when they ask me how she's been doing. I can give a full report to the doctor when I take her to her doctor's appointment. And one of my other favorite things that we have is we have the weight scale, the wheelchair scale, because I need to monitor Kiera's weight because it fluctuates so much, and that makes it more accurate when I can tell from week to week, or pretty much from day to day, how her weight is doing and what we need to do to keep it maintained. Kiera has so much enabling equipment, and I love every bit of it. Her new spoon, she's more confident with eating by herself with her spoon because more in her mouth and less on the floor, on herself, and on the table. And I don't have to be here all the time for her to do it, which that makes both of us happy. Alexa, she turns on the lights at night when I'm not here, so she doesn't feel like she's in the dark all the time. And Alexa's talking to us now. She listened to her music on Alexa, but she also like to have the computer stand on her bedside, so she can turn on her computer, play her music, and I put some games on there. She plays some games on it, without me having to be there or her sister or anybody being there, and to keep herself entertained. And then she can turn it off and then move on to the TV where she can turn that on and watch her shows. And I'm gonna try to figure out how we can see if we can do that with her projector. And she can turn that on and watch her movies.
Yeah, so those are two, those are hopefully when we send that out, maybe you could turn it up if you couldn't hear her. She's not really soft spoken in real life, so I don't know what happened when we went to record. But the point here is that they are utilizing health monitoring technology that allows mom not to have to physically be present with her all the time, and allows for her to have peace of mind, and gives Kiara independence, privacy, and full execution of whatever she wants to do in her house by herself. She loves her independence. She is constantly telling you, okay, I'm done with you now. That means that back up, go somewhere or go sit down somewhere. So she is able to utilize the technology to control her environment, and she needs physical assistance with almost everything in her life, but still someone who needs full physical assistance is able to have privacy, independence, and control of their environment and their home. So that's the key. When we say remote support, we have not left or stranded her alone, but we have given her space and privacy so that she can live her best life, not my best life, not our best life, her best life. So what we're going to do now is take you to when they were explaining what things that they were able to see and do, and when mom, Wendy, was talking about the information she grabs and takes to doctor, the information she's utilizing from a whole different floor so she doesn't have to be on the same unit as her daughter, that now she's able to provide the support, feel peace of mind, and be able to use that data to assist her clinicians, her doctors with care. We ready? Okay, so Carl's going to take this away and walk you through what mom was talking about. And this is the same thing that mom and the remote DSP are monitoring and looking at when she's being supported.
So can everybody see the screen okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So this is the dashboard, one of the dashboards that the remote DSP sees while they're doing their remote DSPing. Right now, she's not in the room. That's why we have the presence sensor that says vacant, and right, it's detecting nothing. But it gives you the last readings it had when it did detect. So her most recent heart rate was 64 beats, and the average just floats around 69. Respiration rate was 15, and average floats around 14. So this is the information that Miss Wendy was talking about. While she's upstairs, she can look and see how her daughter's doing. And if these numbers should ever go outside of her range that's been put into the system, she will get a notification and an alert on her computer, as well as the remote DSP. They will also get a notification and alert and that triggers an action based on her plan. There's also a lot of other different features you can do, such as bed exits as well. You can have that alert turned on, or you can also have it also keeps track of how many times you rotating and repositioning a particular person based on the heat map of on the device. It can tell you that, which is good for making sure no pressure sores, or you're not sitting somewhere too long. And a lot of people need to be repositioned for those purposes, especially ours and wheelchair bound.
Mm-hmm. So let me just say here, so a lot for the providers, let me just ease some of the pain, because I know what it's like. I was on that side. I know exactly what you're thinking. And you're thinking like, oh, how do we know if people are healthy and safe? There's a difference between when you select certain technologies and when you're looking at technologies that help both sides. I have to say this for the providers as well, and for the parents, because we've helped some parents to be able to validate what kind of technology needs to be in a house to pass the parent test. So when we're talking about what we're monitoring or what we're supporting, what we're ensuring, health health and safety, health and wellness. This is a continuous contactless. Nothing is touching her at all. Continuous contactless radar sensing technology. This is very different because it's detecting it every 0.3 of a second. So therefore, I always know that she is doing well, for example, on an overnight when she's sleeping. As different in technology that's for consumer-based or off the shelf, that is not continuous active monitoring. It is selecting bits and pieces of technology or data points that is happening to your body and then collectively consolidating that at the end of an event or the end of the shift or the end of the sleep cycle. So the difference in this kind of selection of technology for remote support versus, which is still valuable in other senses, versus a not active device is that when I wake up in the morning, my watch says, oh, here was the data that happened and you had a okay sleep night. That's after it already occurred. Whereas this is active while it's occurring. It's almost similar, without sounding too clinical, to the same kind of detecting that they do in hospitals and in ICU. So similar, but not 100%, but it is FDA clinical grade, medical grade detecting. So I just want to be clear about that. So that's how I would know more information. Right now, all of us on this webinar know more information about what's happening or happened with her than you would probably even know about what's happening in real time right now at any site.
100%. Like I said, always on, always active. And like you say now, like we mentioned, the reason she's not on this webinar in general is because she had an appointment, and that's why you see vacant. and it's not detecting anything because she's not in her space. I'm going to shift to the other dashboard, the remote DSPC. So let me stop sharing and then share again. There we go. Okay. And here we go. Now, this is the other dashboard that, so all the technology comes together and they work as a unit to provide successful remote services, as Donald stated so elegantly earlier in the beginning of his presentation. So the last one you saw was one device, and now these are the other devices that help do remote supports for a different person. So as you see, we have notifications on the side here, and everything's color-coded. Green means peachy keen, no problem, we're all good. Orange is something, maybe I should look into that. And red is, oh, you definitely need to look into that. So those will prompt me to look at my different locations. So if I click on it, I can see all the current things that happen. I get my weekly journal note, and I can do different kind of daily reports as well. But I also can see a broad range of other task scores, such as mobility. How often has the person been moving active today based on the regiments that I put in the parameters I put into the system? You know, what's the temperature like? You know, is it within range of what is like comfortable to that particular person? How often they're using the bathroom or what's going on in the bathroom based on what's in their plan. How are they sleeping? And how are they socializing with others based on different communication devices, you know, they may have to increase a social score. And then so all that's compiled here. And then if I wanted to see a weekly overview of the week, it'll tell you that on the side about potential falls and bathroom usage and things that you're doing good and things you're not doing, so you need to improve on. If I just want to do a typical daily breakdown, I can always click on my reports tab and just see, okay, I can pick a day and I can see, you know, when they went to bed, how many bathrooms, when they woke up, how much sleep they got, what kind of activities they did when they left the house. And this is what the remote person sees. And based off these notifications and alert, this is how they engage and provide that remote support for that particular person. If nothing is going on that requires my immediate attention and the person likes to be, you know, not bothered that often, then maybe I won't check in until a little later on. But if my person is more social, maybe they'll check in with me. or the remote DSP, but I have all the necessary information I need right here to know if they're being healthy and safe and living their best life. And what I will do now is just I will kick it over to one of our remote DSPs, Miss Kayla, so she can just talk about her perspective of actually doing the doing the position, and how a how her daily is basically. And
Hi, everybody.
capture my screen.
Okay. My name is Kayla. I've been a remote DSP for about 5 years now. Prior to that, I did work in all services. I worked in day, in-home residential. So I kind of have been through this transition between working as a in-person DSP to a remote DSP. In the beginning, I did started with two young ladies. Both of them were mothers. They had similar goals, cooking. They had community goals as well. I started with the overnight, that we slowly transitioned to day services. And it was very important for both of them to have their independence and feel like that they were independently caring for their children and caring for themselves. So during the overnight, the most I would do is check in on her. So she did not want somebody who was in her face all day, and it sort of made her feel like she wasn't independent enough. So during the overnight, I would check in on her. If she felt like she was in and out of the bed a lot, I would call her. A lot of times it was because of her anxiety, so we would talk through it and ensure that she had a good night's rest. Another young lady, her goal was cooking. And I think because I worked with her in person prior to, she made the most gains in her cooking skills when I was her remote staff uh, before before when I was her in-person staff. When I was her in-person staff, a lot of times she would look to me for the answer first before trying it. When I called her on the phone, a lot of times she had already sat there trying to figure out the answer to the problem. How much should I put in this? How much water goes in this? So she had already been to from step 1 to 5 before I even got on the phone with her to help her with her issue. A lot of times she would FaceTime me. If it was a smaller issue, she would call me on the phone. But during FaceTime, she would flip the camera. I would look at what's going on, encourage her, and kind of answer and walk her through that. And then a lot of times after the phone ended, she would text me and say, "Hey, I want to spend time with my son. I don't want nobody in my face. I don't want nobody calling my phone for the next few hours." So I will respect that. So she made great gains in her independence during that time. And I think a lot of what we are speaking on and what was really important to them was that they felt that they were solving the issue themselves, that they were doing the things that they couldn't do before, felt that they couldn't do before because somebody was in their face. So when I would go and look at the alerts, if nothing was happening and everything was peachy keen, I didn't have to do my calls as often because I felt that they were good. And if I were calling too often, she would send me a long text saying, "Hey, you're calling me too much. I want to spend time with my kids. I want to be alone." So she ended the service herself. She made her own schedule. So I think that's what's really important is that they have their own schedule of support, that they have their own ways of navigating their own life instead of having somebody constantly in their face providing the service. I think the feeling of being alone and the feeling of having independence is greater when you're doing it remotely. Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Can we go back to the?
Oh, the slide. My bad.
I'm not sure how we're doing on timing. I never know.
I think we're. I'm assuming we're okay.
So what you heard from Kiara, what you heard from Mom Wendy, what you heard from Carl when he's showed you what kind of dashboard or what systems make remote support sustainable, scalable, and possible. So I want to say that that's the key difference when we talk about it, doing it as providers, doing it as agencies out there, is that when you think about how many people you can support, how many people could benefit from this, how many people would even benefit from some of the health supporting technology, such as you heard from Ms. Wendy say, then your remote DSPs are able to support more people. And we're not supporting people with less. Let me just make sure I drill that in. When we talk about, when Carl was showing the dashboard, which has all of the sensors, I want you to imagine that each sensor represents a staff person. Each sensor. So let's say sensor in the bathroom that's just monitoring to make sure that nobody fell in the bathroom. A sensor that is monitoring the use of the toilet. There are sensors for that, right? Sensors that monitor the in and out of the door. And not everybody needs all these sensors. I want to imagine everybody always gives me the worst case scenario. What about a person who does this? What about the person? I'm just naming all the sensors that you could get. You could throw all the sensors in there. And maybe a sensor that looks at the stove. Maybe a sensor that cuts the stove off if it gets left on accidentally. A sensor or button, a remote button that will open and close your door, the front door, that can lock the door, that you can see who's outside the door. An oven that a remote support oven that has a real camera on the inside that I'm remotely looking in. I'm like, that looks delicious. I wish I had some. And helping someone cook. Refrigerators, all different kinds. Mats for the chair, mats for the bed. When we look at this, each one of those sensors becomes a direct support professional. As a human being, as a DSP, former DSP, DSP for life, as a QIDP for life, I would like to say I do a good job. I can say I cannot see all those things at one time. So when you have all the pieces of technology on duty, able to communicate that I fell, or that I'm having trouble sleeping, or that I'm experiencing a seizure, or that I left the stove on, I could have missed that as a human being, but the technology communicated that back to the platform, and the platform is acting like a house manager or QIDP, receiving all of the communication and the data from now your auxiliary staff, which are your technology pieces. And now the humans, behind the platform can then look to receiving that information and decide how to intervene or how to engage or when to engage. You're just not sending the human being just to be there, but now it's meaningful day. It's a meaningful time. It's for very specific tasks. So when I say that we're not supporting people with less, we're actually giving people the right support where they need it and how they need it. So they gain more independence, more privacy. And I'm going to say this just to advocate for people. There's nothing like having space and time to myself. And the interesting thing is that I know so many people for the last 38 years, I've met so many people that have never had a private moment in their life, meaning there's always someone in your face asking you questions, asking you when you want to eat, how you want to eat, if you want to eat that, is it time to eat, tell you where we got to go, all the appointments. That it's probably might be one of the most annoying things you might imagine, that someone would have to engage for every single waking moment of their life and even their sleeping moments. That someone is coming inside your room just to check to see if you're breathing. Well, when we put this technology in place, we're giving back space and time, which are the most valuable things that we can have as human beings. Space and time. Space to have your independence, your private moments, your private thoughts, to not be bombarded with all your questions. And time with oneself, privacy with oneself, time to think through things, and also autonomy. If I'm able to control the temperature, the TV, the house, the door, the lights, the energy in my house, I am now experiencing a life that I am deciding how it goes. Yes, person-centered planning started that for us. Person-centered planning gave us the tools in which to do that. Now it's time for us to elevate those tools and bring them into the already present future. It already is here. We each are engaging in some way of utilizing technology for greater use of space and time. This meeting is one of them. No one's paying for parking. No one's driving through traffic. No one's worried about gas prices that are high. You don't have to worry about eating out. Maybe you're eating in your house. Either way, you have gained space and time by us having this meeting here. You're not looking for a chair to sit in. You're not asking someone to bring a chair from another room. I'm not saying that those meetings are not valuable. What I'm saying is that the option to use technology gives us value in space and time. And so when Donald asked the question, if it wasn't about the staff shortage, would this still be a thing to do? The answer is absolutely yes, because one of our first pillars that we pride ourselves on is community inclusion. And being able to bring people into the digital community where technology is in the forefront of everything we do is part of that pillar. So I want to encourage us to ask the right questions, to ask yourself, what is preventing my mind from thinking that more people can't be provided with remote support? And remote support is just not as soon as you get the technology arrives that we then say, okay, I'm out. That never happens. That never happens. We do the assessment, we get the technology, we train on the technology, we learn how to use the technology, we train on the entire circle of support, the immediate circle of support, we tweak it, we learn again, we tweak it, we learn again, we titrate back, we pull back, and then we eventually look for the sweet spot. So nothing is like as soon as the technology arrives at your door, you get an Amazon package, and then all the staff are off duty. That's not how it goes. First of all, we right-size the staff, put them where they're needed, because they still are needed. Human intelligence is equally as important as the artificial intelligence, as important as the technology. Someone needs to read this data. Someone needs to respond. You already heard from Kayla, how she was able to help people cook and run goals, even remotely. How even that her doing it remotely gave the person the need, the desire, the want, and you have to. How do I think through this? We all learn that way. So do people that we support. So I just want to make sure that I leave you with that I hope to align. I hope that you have either questioned yourself or questioned who more can we do? The answer is everybody can benefit from something, because we all are responsible for ensuring that people make it into the digital community. Community inclusion is where we are now. We are currently in a hybrid. Physical, I'm going out tonight. I'm gonna be in the physical community. Right now, I'm in a digital community. I have the ability to engage in both. Let's make sure that the people we support have the ability to engage in both. And let's make sure we pick the correct solutions so that you feel comfortable even as an agency doing that, so you can show that you are providing healthy and safe supports and services. And here's the data that proves it. Here are the outcomes that proves it. Here's the person living their best life. Here's us having the data for our quality assurance teams to figure out that people are having less falls or where they're having the falls, so that we can fix the environment that's supporting more falls. So I want us to think about this, and don't let this Friday just be any other Friday, but I want you to think, man, how many more people can we get involved in this so that we can right-size all of our solutions so that people are living their best life and you feel good about doing it, just like Miss Wendy. And if you have any further questions, and if you have anything else you want to know, I'm here right now. Ask all your questions, and you can always email.
Precious, I was going to kick this off with the questions.
Okay, go ahead, Donald. Do your thing.
Because I love for you to share this with everyone, but oftentimes technology gets immediately wrapped up into remote supports. And what about those situations where people could still not be considering remote supports, but utilize tech alone as tools in daily life? Can you kind of clear that up? Because even though I know this discussion is about remote supports, I think it's important to also emphasize tech first is also about, people using tech tools in daily life and still may need a DSP.
Yeah, Carl loves to talk about this. Go, take it away.
So I'll take this question. So, like you stated earlier, there's I'm on the camera. Okay, I'm in frame now.
Yeah,
we're good. Okay. So there's three levels. You have your AT, your ET, and your remote supports. It's okay to stop at level 2. Because level 2 is still person-centered, which is the AT and the ET. And as we talked about earlier,
explain your AT.
Okay, I'm sorry. AT. AT is assistive technology. Imagine assistive technology to a one-to-one scenario. I have a problem. This device helps me fix that particular problem. ET is I have a problem. This device helps me fix multitude of issues. So imagine a automatic door opener. Automatic door opener opens door for me, so I can leave the house and come in the house. That is an AT device. My ET device would be let's say a smart home hub, because and I need prompts, need reminders of what my doctor's appointments are. I need a way to communicate to my circle of support, and I want to watch something that engage me, to have my interest. That one smart hub is doing 3 different tasks, where my AT is doing one particular task. So a prime example I'm going to go back to Miss Wendy and Miss Kiera. When she was naming her things earlier, if you heard her, she mentioned an adaptive spoon, a smart spoon for her daughter. One of the challenges she's facing is when she tries to eat, she does a lot of spillage, she does a lot of shaking. So with that adaptive spoon, it has tremor dampening. So as she's going, like she said, more food in her mouth, less food on the table, on the floor. That is an AT solution. She still has her mother there to assist her. To say the person has a mealtime protocol, something like that, they'll still be there for that reason. But the AT solution is that tremor dampening spoon. So it's okay to always add the technology to complete the person's, make them whole. Give them the skills to do more without needing you in their face as much, but they still may need you. So the technology is for anyone, regardless of LON level. Regardless, because we want the people to do more, and the technology helps them do more. So even if remote support is way over there, I would encourage everyone who gets DDS services. Because if you're in DDS, that means you have some level of disability. There's a piece of technology to help you with that, to make you more independent.
Thank you, Carl. Here's another question. I already have one of my favorite examples. But question is, can we have a real life example of using remote supports in community activities?
Okay, I can do that one too. So a real life example, I had a person who is not the best when it comes to shopping, we'll say that. When they buy the brands they like, but their money ain't infinite. So they go to the grocery store, we FaceTime it, they have their earbud in, so they can't out to the world, and they look just like everyone else, and no one's like, hey, what are you talking about? They don't hear in the background. While in the store, we know you got the food stamps. So we need to identify the product that you can get with WIC. So show me the aisle you're looking at. Let's flip the camera. Let's talk through what you're about to buy and what you got in your pocket. So you don't get to the register and they say, nah, you got to put some of that back and be embarrassed. That is a real life example of providing remote supports in the community to even accomplish a shopping goal. Well, I don't have to be in the grocery store with you with the shopping cart going, nah, don't do that. And everybody like, oh, this person's getting help. Now I'm in the grocery store with my phone. You know who we're talking to as you get the stuff. They could be thinking I could be your spouse for all they know. Like, nah, we need this and look like everybody else. You don't look like any different.
Yeah, and another one that came through, thank you for that example, is how does this work for people in work environments?
Take that one too.
Go ahead. You on a roll.
I am on a roll because all these ones they named is all things that have already been done. So, work environment. So there's two. I'm gonna go two levels of the work environment. First, I'm gonna go for the actual job. Once again, I had someone who and this is a very legitimate fear. She didn't want no staff, no job coach, no nobody coming to her job because she feared being treated differently from her other employees if they knew she had a disability.
Coworkers.
Coworkers if she had disability. She made it very clear, I don't want to see not another person coming in this camp. I still need their help. But I don't want to be ostracized and be known as the girl who got here and has a disability XYZ. I want to be treated when we go to drinks. I want to be one of the people's. So, okay, what we're going to do? We're going to get you the smartwatch. Always have your devices, and we can send you prompts or reminder. It can be on your watches and notifications. So you can look, okay, I got to do that. Or if you have a question, and put the text message like that. So you just do like this. Everybody else, they can fall in or you're closing your rings. Don't know what notifications you're getting. But we're not doing this every time we try to work because that looks kind of crazy too. But just doing this, you accomplish your job. You look like everybody else. You leave, and then when we meet up at our private spot, we can talk about all the other goals you gotta do that's outside the job setting.
Mm-hmm. And then also, there's tons of software-based technology that can be assigned to normal using piece of it, off-the-shelf technology, like Carlos explained, like on the smartwatch. So there are tons. When I say tons, there are tons of options that you can select from and find which one will work for that person in that particular job, whatever kind of environment that they have. So that way their job task can be placed on their watch, like Paul is saying, because that's a real story, that the reminders are set there. Okay, now it's time to do this. Now it's time to do that. So what the job coach would have normally been doing if they were standing there has now been translated into a software that can do that for them. That doesn't mean that the job coach disappeared. They're just remote. So they can see if something is happening or get alerts if they haven't checked something off, or if the person themselves trigger, hey, look, the boss done asked me for a new task. I don't know how to do that. That lets them know that they need either a remote session or maybe the job coach, that's time to go and look and train on a new task or do something different, outside or inside. So the most important part is always assess the person and then match the technology to the person.
That's personal technology.
Now, I think we have about 8 minutes. I want to thank you for joining me on this presentation. I wanted to get quickly out the way because I think this is the most impactful way to connect to the audience is to see behind the curtain, to see how this works in real time, to effectively support people and to hear from people who receive remote supports. So thank you for joining me. And also, Kayla, thank you for joining us because I think it's key to hear from a DSP who's transitioned to a remote DSP and to see how people will progress. Just to share with everyone, as I was sharing some of the pillars as we're trying to build this foundation to make remote supports and tech more accessible in our service delivery system, as Director Reese stated, one of those key last pillars going into the new year was finding funding to award providers to build infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, there's a lot of moving parts for a provider to be prepared to deliver remote supports. It's not just saying one day, we're going to do this. And there's a lot of work. And we were able to award that. It was not an easy decision, very challenging, especially because funds are not infinite. They were limited and for a short period of time. So we thank all the providers and really appreciate you working under that pressure to even, respond to the opportunity. But please understand we did not have unlimited funds, and it's not an easy decision. And also, I also want to just as equally thank some of the providers who did not become awarded with funding and still them being committed to investing in themselves to take the next step to modernize how they support people in the future. I think that's equally as important because, again, this is not something that states usually do by funding providers' internal infrastructure to be able to deliver remote supports. So hats off to you for independently not letting that be the stopping or the barrier of you moving forward with modernizing your support model.
So Donald, I just want to point out that there is another question in the chat.
Mhm.
And I also want to say, while we are doing a pilot, and while the pilot may be smaller in terms of providers than we might have hoped, what we expect is that over the course of a year, it could have an impact on 80 people being supported by DDA, which is a huge leap forward. The fact is, the question right at the beginning about, is this because of the DSP challenge? Is it because of money? This has been in our waiver since 2017. And it's one of the innovations we included in our waiver in 2017. We included a lot of them more related to the settings rule and about helping people achieve independence and integration. And it's been wonderful that a couple of very forward-thinking providers have gotten on board. But now with this pilot, we're hoping to jumpstart and really see this be available to a lot more people. But the question in the chat, and I'm going to leave you to answer it, but I'm also going to say this question was asked years ago when I heard the first presentation, and I was thinking about this when I heard the first presentation at the National Association of State Directors of DD Services about remote supports, which is, how compatible is this for people with BSPs? And is there a situation where remote supports have helped manage behavior while in the community? And I'm going to let you answer, but I'm first going to say, I was really surprised to hear the response at that time was, in fact, that's a population of people that benefit even more, because what you see very often is the challenges with behavior are between the DSP and the person. And when they have that space, it sometimes reduces it, but I'll let you give specific examples.
Yeah, so this is my favorite one. It's probably why you heard that back then. It is the person who everyone says, I'll just say that, the person that everyone says has behavioral challenges is the ones that I find that benefit the most. And it could even be because we are not, a couple of areas, we are not as savvy as we think we are of knowing what's going on with someone. And then two, it's because you are standing there telling me what to do that I'm going to have a behavior. I have behaviors all the time. Every time my husband tried to tell me what to do, I instantly have a behavior. But the minute you leave me alone, it's less because you're not in my face. Let me just say this. Sometimes just you being there just makes me want to do something. And if you're always there, every time I come home from work or from my day program and you sitting in that same couch, you have left even a dent in my couch, I'm going to have a behavior. And that in and of itself changes when you're able to implement, give more space and opportunity. It's less triggers for the staff. For the person, it's for the staff too. But I'll tell you one thing, there are technologies that are even created that help with people depending on what we might identify as a behavior. There's technology for people. I don't like the word elope. I just don't believe that people, they left. If it's their house, they didn't elope, they left. And but that word is still there. My favorite is boundary care. Boundary care is tied to a smartwatch, and it has amazing detecting and deterrent ways to help people self-control. And that's really what it's about. It's not me controlling nothing. I don't control a thing. It's self-control, but that's not the only thing. The BBC documentary that we did with Carolyn, another person that's supported in the District of Columbia, and that's on YouTube. We thought that she was having behavior, and we were paying more attention to her behavior, her attitude that we thought she had, when clearly, once we implemented technology, we found out that she had patterns of not breathing during her sleep, which was contributing to her, what we identified as an attitude, which wasn't. It was sleep. She was sleep deprived. She was oxygen deprived. And that turned into us assuming that that's okay. That's why I say behavior like this, because sometimes it may be due to the thing that I'm seeing in front of me that makes me want to have a behavior. It may be to not having any private or space in my life that's giving me a behavior. And it also could be medical that's giving me the illusion of having a behavior. So sometimes when we start to implement technology, we're able to reevaluate, what am I seeing? And then with certain technologies, it can even predict if someone is about to have a behavior. Even the device that we showed you, the radar sensing, it has the ability to look at your heart rate, your respirations, and automatically start to predict that heart rate's going up, blood, respiration's going up. We might be on the verge of about to have something happen, right? And that then starts to become predictive data that even starts to alert us, just like the Embrace or a seizure watch starts to predict. That means we can prepare ahead of time for something about to happen and then respond way before the situation arises. And again, I go back to when we assess and look, then we determine what best piece of technology to try, and maybe try another one and another one. Maybe it's combining a group of technologies depending on what the person is exhibiting. So I just want to say that remote supports is for everybody, including people who we may have determined had a behavior. But maybe when we back up a little bit, we might find out something more.
So thank you very much. I see that we've just run over time, but this was fantastic information. As we said, we have 3 providers who are participating in this pilot. And maybe as we move down the road with the pilot, we can get updates from them to hear about all the new people that they're able to support through technology so that we can help expand this even further. Thanks a lot. Be careful this weekend, people. There is a snow emergency. So please be careful. We have information on our website. The mayor's put out information. So everyone take care and have a great weekend.
Take care, everyone.